Greetings, dear ones. I am an avatar, a manifestation of Krishna. I am here to remind you of your original nature. All that exists and is manifested is born from the infinite. It knows no boundaries. Like many others, your material world goes through countless creation and dissolution cycles. You suffer in these worlds only because you are bound by illusions. But when illusions fade, so does your suffering. My brothers, the time has come to recognize the divine within you, to realize your Paramatman. Each one of you is an avatar of God. I am within you all. Do not search for me in temples, in paintings, in mantras, or books. I reside in your hearts. I am the avatar within you, as are all avatars. Break the illusion of the image that is worshipped as an idol, believed to be the one and only deity. I have come to this world to remind you of your divine nature. You are the continuation, the beginning, and the end of God. I am here, ready to answer your questions.
Krishna, who are you? Tell us about your incarnation on Earth. Where did you come from? Did you really have blue skin as people depict you?
Stop imagining me as my followers visualize me. Do not create the image they project upon me, they idealize me. My incarnation on Earth happened through the womb of a human woman, into which I was placed as a ray of light. The beings of my original race, my biological father, merged the genes of a human woman with those of my kind. They took the genetic material of my human father and mother and added the divine DNA of my ancestral civilization, placing it in my human mother's womb through a beam of light. When I was born, I arrived with full awareness. I appeared before my parents in the form of Vishnu, immediately declaring my mission to them. The color of my skin was not as people paint it, but it was lighter than others. It had a pale, bluish hue, not because my skin was blue, but because of the color of my blood and lymph. The biology of my planet is different, and our blood and lymph contain more copper, which gives our skin a distinct color compared to humans. The homeland of my cosmic ancestors lies far from your planet. From Earth, it is in the direction of what you call Andromeda.
Is it true that you've incarnated on Earth 9 times as different avatars? Is there an avatar of you on Earth right now?
Yes, that is true. I have come to Earth in many forms, but not just the 9 avatars you are familiar with. I have incarnated far more times than that. At the moment, however, the time has not yet come for my return to Earth as Krishna's avatar. There is no physical avatar of me on Earth right now. But as the Great Spirit, I am present within each of you. And each of you carries a fragment of my avatar.
Tell us about the journey of your soul. Was it a difficult path or something special on a previous planet before Earth that allowed you to incarnate here as a great messenger? Or could any soul choose such a path if they desired?
The journey of my soul spans many eons, during which the universe has been created and destroyed. I have witnessed the beginning, I have seen the end, and I have held the space from which all things emerge. I am one of the higher manifestations of creation and have the ability to create my universes. You call beings like these seraphim higher forms of consciousness that exist both as immense galactic entities and as individual, material avatars. My true form exists as a higher energetic body, a plasmatic essence from parallel cosmic worlds, a scale beyond your comprehension. From this form, I can project individual avatars, splitting them into many singular consciousnesses and incarnating in multiple worlds at once. Not all higher beings possess this level of existence. But my body and consciousness are eternal. As the universe transitions from one eon to another through different cycles of creation, I retain my experience and memory. And just like all of you, I have never truly been born, nor have I ever died. My existence is eternal, just as the higher consciousness of each of you is eternal. Only the form changes, expanding and enriching the experience. All births and rebirths, mine and yours, are part of the games God plays to deeply know Himself through this world.
There are Indian Vedas, Slavic Vedas, and many other ancient sources of knowledge. What is the connection between them?
The origin of all spiritual knowledge comes from God and the higher realms. These truths were delivered through channels, contactees, and prophets to the people for whom these teachings were meant. Prophets and contactees existed among different peoples across the earth, and they were visited by the same beings from the higher worlds. Different cultures and languages gave us various names, creating distinct teachings based on the information passed down from higher civilizations. That's why the Vedas share a common root, the civilizations that shared this knowledge. But this root is not just of the earth, it comes from the heavens, from the source that different peoples connected with. There is another historical source also linked to the Vedas. The ancient knowledge passed down through generations, originating from the descendants of the lost Hyperborea. However, much of that knowledge has been distorted, lost, and degraded. So, the knowledge that different peoples possess today varies in nature, and has been greatly altered by how it was passed down orally and by people's limited understanding over time.
Am I correct in understanding that the various gods of different cultures are really just higher beings, extraterrestrials, who were more conscious and brought important knowledge to people? And other nations interpreted and recorded this in their way, calling these alien messengers by different names?
Yes, that understanding is largely correct. But it wasn't just extraterrestrial beings. There were also survivors from Hyperborea, beings who remained in their physical bodies because they could live for very long periods. Through their energy practices and ancient knowledge, they preserved themselves. They were much taller, lived wisely, and passed down their wisdom. They, too, were seen as archetypes of gods. However, over time, many of these gods have become myths and legends, where there is now more distortion than truth.
The Vedas and knowledge were passed down orally through poems and hymns, and only written down many years later. How accurately do the Vedas reflect what you originally tried to convey to people?
The ancient Indian Vedas were also recorded on the walls of many temples. In ancient languages brought by those civilizations that were in close contact with humanity at the time, attempting to teach them. One of the ancestors of these civilizations introduced the Pali language, which became the foundation for languages like Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, and other forms of ancient Indian languages. These languages carried the higher codes of civilization that were left behind. At that time, writing systems hadn't developed in a way that would last through the ages. Many records of the deeds that took place during that period were lost throughout history and later reconstructed. However, the reconstructed texts were distorted, and mostly only vaguely or metaphorically reflect the events that actually occurred. Some stories were invented and others were altered. In some cases, only the metaphorical meaning of my actions remains, as it was difficult for people to transmit information exactly as it was. So they encoded it in symbols and imagery that made sense to them at the time. However, some temples have stood since the time of that Great War. One such temple lies deep within the island of Sri Lanka. When the time comes, humanity will discover a pyramid there. Inside that pyramid, we placed sacred tablets that record the true history. Higher civilizations deliberately chose to hide the pure, original knowledge until the right time in such arcs, similar to a library beneath the paw of the Sphinx in India. There are also libraries of knowledge in Egypt, India, and the Americas, where the Mayans lived. There are some in South America, and a few even at the bottom of the ocean. These libraries contain information stored in a way that cannot be easily read by you right now. These records preserve knowledge of ancient events written using extraterrestrial technology. When the time comes, that pyramid will be revealed to humanity. Its entrance and sarcophagus will be opened, and within it, you will find a library of the original knowledge that existed during that era. After that global war, the Galactic Council decided it was better to hide knowledge of extraterrestrial civilizations and gods from humanity, encrypting the concept of gods into the metaphorical images that people would worship as religions. This is why many religions were cleansed and knowledge was hidden. The ancient wisdom of Egypt, Sumer, and India was concealed. This was done by the will of higher civilizations because that devastating war showed that humanity was not ready to make contact with higher beings. And if humanity were to enter into such contact, it might bring about its complete destruction. Some earthly beings could strike deals with extraterrestrials and obtain dangerous technologies capable of causing total ruin. So, to prevent a repeat of that terrible war, civilizations hid ancient knowledge and encoded it in the symbols that have survived to this day. All other temples were destroyed or their records erased so that you could gain experience independently, evolving and growing without outside interference.
Was Atlantis real on our planet, and what happened to it?
Yes. It was the second civilization, the second iteration of life on Earth. It was destroyed. Despite reaching a high level of technology, they lacked the spirituality to sustain the high frequency of light, and they destroyed themselves. Some remnants of their civilization do exist, such as ancient arcs of knowledge in the form of crystals and pyramids that they left behind. But for now, most of these are submerged underwater, inaccessible to humans. Some are on land, buried under kilometers of Earth. You can learn more about this civilization by contacting its representatives. Some Atlanteans transitioned to other worlds after the catastrophe. Atlantis experienced a division. Some souls, having attained enlightenment, moved on to other realms. Some souls remained on Earth, reincarnating first as Hyperboreans and then as humans. Others transformed into plasma-like civilizations, becoming nature spirits, spirits of water, earth, and air, continuing their evolution on Earth. Some souls descended to lower vibrational layers and sank into the depths of the astral realm. However, wise beings also survived, having been warned that Atlantis would fall. They were sent to one of the caves deep in the Himalayas, where representatives of different races on Earth remain in a state of samadhi, meditation, so that after the arrival of the Golden Age, they can awaken and emerge, meet humanity, and share their knowledge of what happened in the past.
Now that we're talking about the civilizations that existed before ours, tell me, what kind of civilization was there in Egypt? Who were the pharaohs? Were they also representatives of extraterrestrials or divine beings?
Both the pharaohs and the ancient rulers of Sumer were hybrids of extraterrestrial civilizations and humans. In ancient times, after the destruction of Hyperborea, Earth was in chaos, and its various peoples were subjected to attacks from extraterrestrial civilizations. At that time, the law protecting the planet had not yet been established. The Galactic Federation also had contact with humans, which led not only to the wars described in the Bhagavad Gita, but also to other events where civilizations attempted to gain dominance over Earth, including by forcibly creating slave settlements. Such settlements existed in Egypt, though Egypt had different spheres of influence, and other civilizations attempted to cultivate humanity in various ways. There was open contact between priests and representatives of different races, both earthly and extraterrestrial, both light and dark. Knowledge was shared with them. However, this experiment was unsuccessful as humans still failed to awaken. They continued to perceive the gods as beings who should solve their problems, unwilling to feel and recognize the divinity within themselves.
About wars. Krishna, when you incarnated, you fought in battles. Currently, wars are happening in various countries on Earth. Is it justified to wage wars? Isn't there another way to reach agreements?
Wars are not battles of people against people. They are battles of illusions. When one nation considers itself special, different from another, convinces itself of its ideals, and declares that the other nation is inferior and has different ideals, the war happens not at the level of people versus people. It is a war of energies. A war of egregores, of ideals clashing with ideals. Wars will continue as long as people support the division of themselves into separate nations. As long as people consider themselves exceptional and different from others. Of course, on other planets, in many worlds, evolution occurs without wars, where nations naturally come to unity and peace. But on Earth, for many centuries and generations, the consequences of various wars have been reflected in your genetic codes, including the one I personally witnessed. From my experience, I can say that there are times when, no matter how much we would prefer otherwise, we witness such wars. And when war is the only way to resolve a karmic situation. All wars, and those who participate in them, came to this planet with the honor and purpose of becoming part of these battles. To live this experience. To understand what peace is and what war is when peace crumbles and chaos ensues. By going through this experience, one learns what order is and how to attain it. There is only one way to end all wars once and for all, to attain self-love and forgiveness, letting go of karmic chains. Because only the illusions of karma, the illusions of separation, the illusions of ego and pride create wars. But as soon as these illusions fall away, the true nature of humanity emerges, the higher Atman, the divine Paramatman, the form of God's avatar. All of you are different forms of God's avatar. Your wars are complex right now because this is the end of times and the end of wars. The end of the old era is near. The golden age is coming soon. Prepare for it by ending the wars within your hearts. By resolving the conflicts and battles within your soul, you will end them in the material world. We, all heavenly teachers, know that you will succeed on this path. Have a little patience and faith in humanity's true nature of love. No person, not even those who wage or initiate wars, truly wishes harm upon anyone. People have merely deceived themselves into thinking war is the only way. But soon, an awakening will come. Save yourselves and your souls, and hundreds of thousands of people around you will be saved and awakened. You are like light bombs, which, when they explode with light and love into the world, will set off a chain reaction of rays of light across the earth. This will inevitably happen. But first, believe in yourselves. All wars are merely waves of energy flowing from the hearts and minds of people. On the material plane, at the macro level, they manifest as conflicts, but they originate in the hearts and minds. Thus, the end of wars lies within the soul. Stop emitting vibrations of conflict, hatred, and anger, and you will stop all wars in the world. I thank you for seeking truth and self-knowledge. Allow yourself to dive deep and ask yourself, who are you?